All right. Welcome to Rich Conversations. We are in my barn in Wisconsin, and we are joined by the lovely Shawn McCormick. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is fun. Well, how cold would you say it is right now?
I'd say it's roughly probably in the 30s, high 30s, low 40s.
You think it's high 30s?
I think so.
I could have swore my kitchen thermometer said 28.
28. I guess it might be a little different since we're in the barn, I guess.
So it's cold here. It's February.
Yes.
And you're not wearing a coat.
No.
No, you have a coat. You're choosing not to wear it.
I have a coat. I choose not to wear it. I'm not low on the thicker side of the skin, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wisconsin breed are just different.
Yeah. It's I got a high tolerance. Yeah. It's Wisconsin's a different kind of breed. I've been to other states and I like the weather though. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in my barn. This is actually the first episode we've done in my barn. What do you think so far of our little like makeshift studio setup?
I like it. It gives a more of personally for me, it gives a little more unique. It's a little different type. It's a lot of different type of style, but it's a little different as of like sitting at home, kind of like. For me, I grew up out here in Raymond, so for me, it feels more natural set type of setting. So.
Yeah, it feels like you're just kicking in with your with your guys, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, growing up, this is what we did.
Yeah, that's like something I've thought about with the podcast is like being really agile with it. Like you saw the bag that I have. I just have a duffel bag, and that's the podcast, including lighting. We got lighting here too, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I do like certain spaces. It's good to have like certain spaces. So I want to make this like certain space. It would be like the bar I work at in Chicago. I have kind of like a setup there that I can use, or like, come in and just make it.
Right.
And so I wanted to create one here in Wisconsin too, where when I have podcast guests from Wisconsin, we can just come to the barn, right?
Right. I like the idea because like too with the barns today, the older barns are more unique and it gives them more of a home feeling, more family. When I see an old barn, I see the old family ties, old farms, families and stuff where you had 7 or 8 kids in the family and stuff like that too, and try to make it work and type of thing, and the hard work, and that's what America pretty much grew up on, and Sunday morning, get out in the barn, work the cows and stuff like that. You milk the cows. You got sunlight coming in through the cracks and stuff through the walls and stuff for the barn.
You could see it as we were walking up. My little brother, he's an electrician, and when he was going through his apprentice program, he just wanted to electrify everything, put electricity everywhere. Double up the electricity and outlets inside, like at home as well, and like so in the barn here, he put electricity. He got lights in here, and we got like a mini bar over here. We have these big panels over here. We have a projector that we can put and watch like movies, play video games. But you can tell it's an old barn, because not a lot of this is like early 1900s.
Right.
My dad could tell you like the reasons why it was built in 1900s. A lot is like the field stone that they use at the foundation, and also like the beams that they use. But also the reason you can tell it's an old one is because there's just like it's so dirty.
Yeah, it's the wood. You can see it's aged wood.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Back at home, which is not far from here, you know where I live, or my parents live over in 2 Mile. They have a barn, and that was built back in the 1950s, but that was from reclaimed wood or salvaged wood from other barns. But you can tell that's kind of old too, because all the different sizes that were used to make one barn.
Yeah.
And just the layout of all the main beams and stuff like that. It wasn't your typical layout.
And we got this solid table and these chairs. Check out these fancy chairs.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
These were supposedly, when someone came to settle here, they brought this dining set with them from England.
Oh, okay.
This was like 1700s. It wasn't our family, so it was a different family.
So
and
it's handed down.
We were gifted this.
Oh, wow.
But it's in the barn, collecting pigeon droppings. We have a tarp that goes over this. I try to keep it as clean as possible.
Yeah.
But pigeons, they're like flying rats. It's like so hard to...
It's hard. They also like to travel in packs or groups. There's a name for it, but I cannot think of the name. But they're
annoying.
Well, that's one.
Obnoxious,
annoying. Heard of it? I heard's a cow, but just that there can be a nuisance though at times.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. I was over at, I'm like name dropping, Dave Krahajek.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was at Dave's last night, and Zimmerman and Scooter were over there.
Okay.
And so we were hanging out, and we were talking about the pigeons. You know, like in the city, they have, like the CTA, they put up these spikes.
Right.
So that they can't.
So they can't land on the roofs and phone lines and stuff.
But then it's like, like they were saying, then it's like, how much work do you want to put in spikes everywhere in here, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyways, but it's cool to have like a space like this. This is cool.
Yeah.
So you're my first guest in this new barn studio, and we're doing it.
I'm totally excited. I was
like 30 degrees.
Like 30 degrees. I'm totally excited, and honestly, like you're not the first person to say like, well, you got a coat, but you ain't wearing it in this weather. Yeah.
Why don't you describe? So Shawn McCormick is here with us. Is our honorable guest. Mm-hmm. How would you describe how we know each other?
So describe. In a short story, I would be, I think, to start off with, I knew Richie from football. We played football since early years in grade school, and then high school we played some ball in high school and stuff like that. So I think it's mainly football and stuff that we played, or that we knew each other.
We probably spent most of our time playing football together.
Yeah. And other than, because we're about a year or 2 years difference, in age. So the main thing was playing football and some with sports. So
sports. And so you came down. You visited me in Chicago. Mm-hmm. This was really cool. So Shawn came down a couple Thursdays ago, and we went to the Art Institute. Mm-hmm. And we went to the Athletic Association.
Yep.
Did we do something in between?
We went to a sandwich shop or something. I think.
Oh yeah, we went to Potbellies.
Yeah.
Shout out Potbellies. I love Potbellies. What do you think of Potbellies?
I thought it was good. I think that was the first time I've been there.
Okay. Yeah, it's more. It's like I think the first one was in Chicago.
Okay.
Or Illinois.
Yeah, it was good.
Yes, we went to the Art Institute. So Shawn hits me up. Something I like. Not a lot of people visit me in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
I think it's because Chicago, especially coming from rural Wisconsin, it seems so drastically different. Because it is, like, culturally, it's a complete 180, right?
Yes, totally.
So I think in other people's heads, it seems farther than it is, because it's only like an hour and a half drive, or like taking a train. It's like around that or whatever.
An hour. It's about an hour.
Or I don't know if it's like intimidation by so much stimuli, or I'm not sure, but
I think as a person growing up in the rural side of the rural side of Wisconsin, or just the rural of America, it's hard to go into the city. It is. I live in Sturtevant, and I've been living there for 8 years. I still have a hard time living in the city, or anything where that's not rural. But to me, I've always wanted to take adventures and stuff like that too. So going to the city, I guess, I'm open to it. So it was a big step, like going into. I always thought Chicago was kind of neat, but it's the biggest city in the Midwest.
Yeah.
How many other cities in the Midwest come close to Chicago? Nothing. Like when you think of the Midwest, what's the number one city? Chicago.
Yeah.
It's like third biggest city, or
it's the third.
The third biggest city in the United States,
population wise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like the capital of the Midwest in a way.
Basically, and I think like Madison's probably the second one in the Midwest. I think.
No, it'd be like. Then you have all those other cities like Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Cincinnati, Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Detroit. I guess Detroit would be after.
I think you're right. I think Detroit would be after Chicago.
But Chicago is clearly like the biggest.
Yeah.
But then you came down. We went to the Art Institute. What was your favorite painting at the Art Institute?
Favorite painting. It would definitely have to be probably the most, in my opinion, the most talked about one with the farmer and his wife, or the pitchfork.
Yeah, the American Gothic.
Yes,
you saw that. You're like, oh.
I'm sitting like, yeah, like it's not that often I go to anything with an art institute or anything like that. Just because I'm just a guy out there growing up on the farm, and it's like. Okay, and it's like, well, I'll go there, It's like I've never been to, I'm not the fancy type of guy, but I was like, that's kind of interesting. I'll go, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, I got a membership there, so I get like 3 people in free.
Yeah.
So it's always like a fun thing to just like show people around, and you see the iconic ones, and the American Gothic is one.
I think my favorite part of the museum was going in downstairs where they got the small room.
Yeah, that's a favorite of so many people.
Yeah, it's the 3-dimensional rooms, small, all in
the mini rooms of all these like different Georgian periods or French periods or
Victorian periods,
American colonial periods. Yeah,
I've always been a fan of talk about houses and architectural. My favorite would be the Victorian houses, just because of their design. It's almost like a miniature castle because of the roofs and things like that. But that's what drew my attention to the small rooms. Yeah. But yeah.
And then we went to the Athletic Association. That's one of my favorite places in the city. What do you think about that place?
It blew me because of what it is. I don't know the history of it and stuff. That was the first time I've been to it. So I like the scenery, the scene of it, where it's the old late 1800s. Is it? Yeah. Of the it makes me think of Ivy League type.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned that.
It makes me think of Ivy League. It makes me think of like kind of the high class college society kids. Like I'm not nowhere near this in my status ever, but like I like this. It's a different environment.
It's like you had touched on it. It's the way I often feel too, just like coming from rural America.
Yeah.
And then you kind of feel not uncomfortable, but it's different. Like you're out of place in a way.
Yeah.
Even though it maybe didn't feel out of place for you to be there, but it's like kind of this like, oh, this is much different.
Yeah.
It's different like culture or vibe or.
Right. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like me growing up, like if it wasn't anything where like for me going out of my norm is strictly just being at home, hitting the field. That's type of me. That's always one thing that's always going to stick with me. So anything where if it's leaving the farm, or leaving rural America, it takes me out of my comfort zone, honestly. And so like, but then it's like I knew that we're all gonna die one day. I want to see.
This is true.
I'm gonna be honest. We're all gonna die one day, no matter what.
Blowing minds.
Yeah, blowing minds. I've got a different perspective in the last like 10, 15 years, and I decided to take chances. It's like I'm going to go hit Chicago. And it's like, do I know anybody down there? Richie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I'm gonna hit up Richie and like say he's doing, you know, and that's my initial thing was, you know.
I like how you're not like afraid is the wrong word, but like you put yourself out there. You're like, hey, like I'd like to come to Chicago. What are you up to? What's your schedule like? It's like, oh, like yeah, I'm available on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like let's find a time, and like we made it happen. You know? Whereas like sometimes people don't initiate conversation or for whatever reasons, then it always is just in the back of their head like, oh, I wish I would have done that. I wish I'd done that. And
I got so used to that because like growing up, like I wasn't always that like outgoing person or whatever, you know. And but it's like it's like I wanted to change that. So I'm like, you got to start, somewhere,
Wait, so how did this come about for you, where you started just putting yourself out there more? How did that come about?
I just got to, like, when I started working and stuff like that, and starting to have to interact with other people, and more than just being in a small circle of friends that you knew for a long time. And so for me, after working with a bunch of other people, and especially being out in the trade, it's like there's a lot of things I need to learn and I need to start picking up. And we're living in a fast-paced world today that you need to, like as a man, we need to start being more confident in what we do. We need to start making movements, start making such more initiative of what we were being called to as men, and so being out more instead of being hibernating at home all day long on the weekends or just sitting in the bar or whatever it is, like I decided to make a change and start taking more chances and risk and things like that. And so it's just kind of became a time where it's like God wants me to start doing things or whatever, and that's what I need to be working on myself and find out what my flaws are and start working on it from there, Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm proud of you. You're good.
Yeah, so it's like I'm probably different than I was probably since the last time you see me in high school or so, hey?
Yeah. Yeah, and I especially enjoyed catching up with you, I would say, at the Art Institute. I mean, we're just, a lot of times when we go to the Art Institute and I'm walking around with people, we're just like having this long conversation while walking around looking at art.
Yeah.
The focus really isn't art. It's like it's conversation between us.
Yeah.
And the art is like this way to prop up the conversation. It allows very easy conversation topics to come up.
Yeah.
But then just like hearing about your life and everything you're doing now, why don't you describe what you do, the trade you're in?
So for a living, I work in construction. I work as a pipe fitter or a steam fitter. It's pretty much the same thing. What that is that powerhouses, power plants, stuff like that is where like all your steam really comes into play as a steam fitter, and that's what we as steam fitters did was throw pipe or put pipe together, work with boiler systems to make electricity and things like that. But not only does it apply to steam applications, but also applies to like copper, anything anything related to piping, hydronic systems, hot water, chilled water, anything related to pipe is what we work on.
Laying pipe.
Yeah, laying pipe. I like that. You know a little bit there. Yeah, laying pipe.
All right, so you're laying some pipe.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to learn the trade?
Just the basics would be, I just got done with my 5-year apprenticeship. Okay.
So it takes 5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 5
and this
years.
is like, when you're going through these 5 years, you're on the job learning, but you're also taking classes and studying stuff too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a combination of go to work, learning on the job, and also being in class. And basically, your 5 years is basically your basics to your career. So you're learning the math, you're learning the basic pipes and things like that, and all that. After 5 years, you're pretty much getting your basic knowledge, and then your reality is that your career actually starts right there, going forward. You don't stop learning, and you keep on learning, keep asking questions. So it's an ongoing process, but you also produce skills like welding, cutting and measuring pipes. So math is something that never goes away. That is actually the one true thing that lasts since kindergarten. Well, math, your numbers, you're always going to have to use it.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. So.
How many, as far as the trades go, provide some examples of trades that there
are. So you got a steam fitter, you got a plumber, which are plumbers deal with wastewater and things like that. So we are different. Then you got electricians, you got cement masons, you got bricklayers, you got road construction, which do asphalt and laying cement. So there's a whole bunch. Any cooking, being a chef is also a trade. It's not construction; it's kind of health related. So there's a lot. There's many.
The trade is like a field of work and study. And
basically, a trade is a profession with skill.
Okay.
So you a lawyer, doctor, that's an education. It's not really the skill, but you're going to get the knowledge. Here you go to a trade, you're getting a skill and you're getting the knowledge. Yeah. So because you have to produce your.
So of these trades, you said 5 years apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the most out of the trades? Like my little brother is electricity. I think that was like 2 or 3.
I think, to my knowledge, that for some reason right now I'm thinking that's average. Right now I believe that's average. 5 years is like average. Okay. I think if you're looking to 3 or 4 years, that's probably on the short side. Okay. So I think if you, let's say if actually I think like cosmetology or something. I think if cosmetology was an apprenticeship, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's like 2.5 years or 3 or something like that. Okay. So, but I think 5 years is average. Okay. To my knowledge.
So what does your typical day look like?
My typical day depends if I'm working in the field or if I'm working in the shop. I spent all 5 years, for me it was like about 6 because of layoff time. So sometimes when it gets slow, then they put your apprenticeship on hold so that it gives you allotted 5 years. A typical day is doing layouts for where you're looking at where you gotta see where your pipe is going, do your layouts, measurements, and things like that. So it might be a couple days worth of that, and then you're doing your pipe fabrication, which is you're actually cutting and welding pipe or screwing pipe together using torches, welders, threaders. That's what my usual day is consist of.
Do you spend more time prepping, or?
Yeah, okay. We spend a lot of time. I guess it depends on the type of process that you're using too. You spend a lot of time doing layouts. Measure twice, cut once. You're going to hear that a lot in any trade. Any trade, guaranteed. That's the number one rule of thumb is measure twice, cut once.
Cut once.
Yeah, you won't ever hear it enough. Never. Just about every person probably tell you they made a mistake doing that, in measurement or something. But two, it's also always admit to your mistakes, like anything else, But there's a lot of time gets spent on layouts. Sometimes you might have somebody who's designated to doing layouts, and then like on my last job, my foreman did a lot of the layouts, and then he would order prefabbed pieces to come down to the job site. Okay. So a lot of time gets spent on that.
So the places you're working at, are they like Are they industrial? Are they residential?
For me, it's always been industrial and commercial. Mostly industrial type places, factories, like Nestle's or Case, New Holland plant. I haven't worked there as a fitter, but that's an example of like places to work at, like, you know, car factories and things like that. All industrial places is usually what I've been doing. So,
okay. So on the job, what is it like when you're working with others? Are you guys playing music in the background? Are you like?
Yeah, it depends on the job site. Depends. Because of safety, they usually don't. Some of them are picky about playing music. Some of them are not. You get a lot of, because you can work with like 100 guys on a job site, or a couple hundred.
Really?
Yeah. You can work with a couple hundred guys on a job site. So you get a lot of different people, a lot of different
opinions of music.
Yeah, lots of opinions. Oh, I can tell you, I can tell you a thing or two. Well, it would be more than a thing. It would be like a page or two. But the interactions between guys and stuff, you're gonna have guys you're gonna like and get along with. You're gonna have guys that you ain't gonna like and not get along with. But it's one of those things. Man up and just, you know, work with it. Do your job. Learn how to get along with people. You know, it's reality. You gotta, you know, and there are some jobs where you can have like 14,000 people on it. You go down to like American Steel or U.S. Steel down in Indiana, Gary, Indiana. You go down to the oil rigs or the gas production down in just right down there by Gary. It's the next city over. That can have, you know, 14,000 people on it. Yeah.
So you're just all working at once.
So when you get jobs like that big, 3 shifts, 24/7. Yeah. So like when you say like, you know, people getting laid off, when things get slow, then it's like you're laying off 2,000 people in a day.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
so the layoffs, when you mentioned layoffs earlier, it's essentially like there's not a job right now per se.
Yeah, so it's like
but then one might come up and then you're like back up again. It's not like a.
So it's
like an in and out type of thing, like a temporary.
So it's kind of like temporary and seasonal. It can based on quite a few different factors. A common one, it would be seasonal. It's kind of like let's say road construction. Most of the time, the guys are going to be working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week during the summer, and then they would probably only cut down to like maybe 6 or 8, or maybe take a month off or lay off or something. Hey, we're slow right now. Yeah. We're gonna wait till things pick up. I'll bring you back. That's the nature of the trade.
So right now it's a little slow. Winter.
Just little. I was off for 2 months, so when I came down, you know, during the week, usually I usually don't take off, but usually I try to plan things to when I get laid off. So it's not really a bad thing. Like some people think it can be a good thing. I worked for a year and a half. I only took, I did take like a week or 2 weeks off, I think, in like 3 years. I worked for 3 years. I only had like 2 weeks off in 3 years. So, yeah, no, it's actually a decent, I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's good because it gives me time to rest, you know. To hang out, you know.
So is it pretty physical on your body then?
Yes. It's physical, intense. Being a pipe fitter is pretty intense. You do have tools and everything, but just long hours and crawling around, and you can, depend on where the job is and everything. It's a pretty physical, demanding type of job, and always dealing with heavy things, you know.
Yeah, you gotta be physically tough.
Physically tough,
so much so that you don't have to wear a coat when you're recording a conversation.
It's actually
in like 30 degrees.
It's actually like a state of mind too.
Okay.
Yeah. Think about it in a sense that in 30-degree weather, just think about being in on a beach out in Hawaii or Florida or something like that,
Here we go. I'm going to Mexico City in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You want to take me with?
I've never, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, it should be like 75s.
You know where it gets 75? You know where it gets 95 in the middle of winter? Phoenix.
Does it?
Yeah.
So I've been in like northern Arizona, Page, Arizona during the summer.
So you've been to
Not Phoenix though.
So Arizona. So you go in Arizona. If you go far enough north, you can get snow. So it'd be like Flagstaff. I've been at so if you go like Phoenix, from Phoenix going south, then you can hit.
Doesn't it get really cold at night when the sun goes down?
About 40
Does it depend
degrees.
a lot on the sun or?
About 40 degrees. Well, from the time that all the time that I was down there, let's see, I was down there during Christmas to New Year's, 1 year. So I left. So I left in New Year's Eve. So I spent New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve here in Wisconsin, and then I flew down, got there at midnight, and I spent Christmas Day down there. And I left New Year's Eve, and I came back New Year's Day. Okay. So I had the night flight. It was actually pretty cool. But yeah, so during December, it got down between 30 and 40 degrees during the.
See that's like.
It's probably a little chillier, I think, than this, because there's no humidity.
See that? You see my breath?
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of like scouting for snowbird locations. So like places to visit during the cold months here up in the north. So I've gone to Miami a few times. I've been to the Southwest now a little bit, going to Mexico City. I seem to lean towards, we'll see what Mexico City's like, but I really like Miami a lot.
I've never been to Miami, but I've been to Orlando. That was the furthest south on the East Coast that I've been.
Okay.
Phoenix was the furthest west and furthest south on the West Coast I've been.
Have you ever been to Los Angeles?
I have not.
Okay.
I've been trying to get back down to Arizona, but my schedule, my uncle's schedule has not matched up yet.
Okay.
So I've been wanting to get out there though.
I was thinking about Arizona last night. We were in the shop, and he's got Dave's got a couple of posters of Johnny Cash, and in the background, in this like poster of Johnny Cash is like, it looks like a window.
Yeah.
That you can tell it's like desert in the background or in this window. It's like, did Johnny Cash spend a lot of time in the Southwest? Like that would be interesting. The Southwest has like a mystique to it. It has like an aura about it.
There is something about the Southwest that draws my attention.
Yeah.
Like for me, it would be like maybe like the history a little bit with like Route 66 and things like that. When you start talking like the post era of 1900s or even early 1900s to recent times is like, yeah, what is all desert and mostly desert out west until you start hitting.
It's so vast.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just what's kind of like. I spent most of my life here in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, and a trip or two down to Chicago or through Chicago, But so, just like Florida, there's something about Florida that piques my interest too.
Everywhere can be so interesting. You know what I mean? Especially if you're looking at it through a lens of just openness and curiosity and
it's
absorption. I don't know.
The term I like to use would be is that I'm intrigued on, and I don't use a lot of big words, but intriguing would be one word that I like to. It piques my interest to go out and see different things instead of just seeing what the movie shows you.
Yeah.
Today, everybody just wants to say, well, why not just watch a documentary on the Nature Channel to see what the Caribbean is like or see what Australia is like and whatnot. Well, why? I mean, I spend my whole life here. Why would I want to sit in front of a television just to see if I can? Yeah, you can't feel. You can't go down there and and sit in front of your TV and be like, you can't feel the nature. You can't.
I will say this,
interact
though,
with
like it does. I feel like that's all I watch. It's like nature documentaries or like history documentaries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the real thing cannot be replaced. Like what we're doing right now is better than any other options. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How much time do you spend on your screen?
Sure, I can.
Screens.
Probably at the most, I think, way too much. Definitely way too much. Way more than I ever wanted to my whole entire life. I'm at the point in my life where my house is paid off. I have my truck paid off. 33 years old. I've only had my house for 8 years. I paid it off in 7.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, it's one of those things that once you start doing things as just like a middle class person, is like, what else is there to do? It's like, I don't have family. I don't have kids. I'm gonna go do things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, doing things like this. This is what I enjoy doing, is to interact with friends and stuff, sitting in front of the TV. Well, at some point you get so bored just because, like, well, I completed something, and in today's day and age is paying off a house. Okay, now what do I do?
Now you're bored.
Now I'm bored.
I love that. Sean, I love that you're bored. That's so refreshing in a way.
Honestly, it's one of those things. A lot of people are saying that today. The reason why they have this stuff is because they're bored. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at first they're like, oh, it's cool. I got TV and, well, I'm bored. The end result is that I'm bored. They're lacking the interaction that we're doing right now.
So do you think?
And so I sit there and try to get more and more and more of it. It's kind of like, it's like having candy. It's like, well, I want another piece. Then it's like you have so much of it, you feel like you can't get enough. It's an addiction, and that's something I'm trying to break. You're
talking about screens right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So screens is like candy. It's like, I don't want to reference it to drugs because I've never been addicted to drugs. But from what I hear is that drugs are the worst thing to be addicted to. Well, so is sugar. Well, screen time doesn't matter if it's your phone or your television or your desktop. They can be used for good stuff to educate people and things like that. But at what point is it bad? Too much time, right?
Yeah. I think certainly phones, because TVs have been around since the 50s, something like that.
Earlier 40s, than that, I think like the 50s is when every household.
It was color.
I think it was like the 60s. I think was the color. I think the 50s was the age when everything that was in the store was being accessible to every household in America. Let's put it that way. 1940s, by the time 1940s roll around, every household had a car in the driveway. Let's put it that way.
Post World War II, basically.
Yeah. Henry Ford. That's what Henry Ford did. Is that he made it possible for every household family to have a car or a vehicle in their driveway at their home.
Yeah.
That's what Henry Ford did. By the 1950s came around, because of Henry Ford's idea of the production line. That's what he's known for. It's not the Ford car. It's to be able to produce something cheaply and to make it affordable for the everyday American. And that's you and me. And guess what? Every other company, doesn't matter what it is, came to follow suit in Henry Ford's design of the modern day factory.
Yeah.
So
well, going back originally, so screens have been around, TVs have been around.
Yeah.
But it seems like lately, over the past maybe 10 years, it's like smartphones, and the phone screens are the issue, right?
Yeah.
Primarily?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's, let's see. I see people all the time at work and stuff, always got the phone out.
It's not just your work, too. It's my work. It's like everywhere.
Well, what do you think about this? When's the last time, how far back would you say was it before your phone had a screen on it? Was it got to be about 15 or 18 years, right? Well, when did the first handheld phone have a screen on it? That was more than just
like a touch screen or like a...
Yeah.
I mean, is it the iPhone? Is it like 05?
Yeah, so any type of screen that's more than just the dial button. I mean, this is last year's phone.
Yeah.
But was it 7th or 8th grade for us? Was it that somebody started having something like this? We can touch the screen and something pops up? Or have it some kind of touch screen?
I think it was a little later. Because we kind of bridged the like analog and digital world in a way.
I think that was like when we started high school. That was back in 2005?
Yeah.
Well,
it's around there.
So somewhere around there. But there was a point to where I was going with this is that at that time, what were we doing at that time if we didn't have these?
I think that's a great question that we have to like think about, be conscious of now.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's gotten unhealthy. And for people younger than us, that's all they really know is how to interact with the world.
Right.
With that, it's almost like we have to create different habits for ourselves in our interactions in social environments, where we don't have to be so attached to the phones.
Well, just think too is that
like applying discipline on yourself
is to start with,
but also kind of teaching that discipline, instilling that discipline with devices,
right?
So that you can live more like fulfilling and be present more, I suppose.
I believe that now there could be a bunch of reasons why people are on them so much and so many hours out of the day. Work, dating sites, and that can
everything is on there.
Everything. So if you know what the rabbit hole is, I'm going with this. Well, they replace the relationships and the friendships with their phone. Okay.
Right.
So, but two is to think how dangerous that is. Is that if everybody sat in their house on their phone, human society just keeps going down the drain.
So what is the real world and what is the fake world? Is the real world the one physically that we're here right now? Or is it, if we had our phones out right now, is this the real world? What's happening on our screens?
So the real world is us living in the moment. The fake reality is the TV screen or your phone. That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
I was thinking about this today. It's healthier to be on the screen than in front of the screen. Think about it for a second.
I think I got you. I think I see where you're going with this one.
See, right now we're not
in front of the screen.
We're not in front of our screens, right?
Right.
But by recording it, we'll be on the screens.
But what do you do for the other people on the other side of that screen? Yeah,
tell them to get off the screen. The only way you can reach people on their phones
is through the screen.
It's through the screens. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So, one question that people ask me, okay, and I don't know, it's a common question people have asked me, like, Shawn, how come you're not seeing anybody or dating anybody, or, there's this dating site you can go. It's like, no. I said, I can't do the dating site because I don't know who's on the other side of that screen. It's not a video, right?
What do you mean by that? Like,
okay, so we're doing this live as a video and a live video right now. Okay, but if it's a picture, if we just sent the picture, we can just take a picture of anybody, send them to a website, whatever, and be like, oh, this is Shawn and Rich, whatever. But how do you know that's really Shawn and Rich, per se? But if they see us...
Are you talking about like photoshopping and stuff like that?
Yeah, photoshopping and stuff like that. All that stuff has gotten...
Well, the whole thing is like, with dating apps too, it seems like they've evolved where now they're looking to monetize. So do you think they would make... Do you think it's in their business interest to find you a match and get you off the app right away? No, because then they can't sell your data to advertisers or use your data to get advertisers and also use your data for a whole bunch of other stuff. It's more profitable to keep you on there.
Right.
So the algorithms, it's not like a real, like, genuine, like, oh, we swiped and we matched. It's all like concocted in a way. Sort of. I might be like speaking out of turn here, but like
I see where you're going because
it's
like
not natural. It's manipulated.
To
mess with people, especially as something so pivotal in people's lives, like dating and like those feelings of that you get when you find someone or you're wanting to find someone. So
think of it this way.
Okay.
So I'm gonna reference this from the Bible in Genesis 2 that says God says that it's not good for man to be alone. Okay, but now let's speed time up from Genesis 2 to now. Okay, people are lonely. People have low self-esteem, and all this other stuff. So where they turn to, they're finding something to medicate that. In a way, if it makes sense. So it's kind of like being on a phone where it's like if somebody who lives alone, they don't have a roommate or a spouse, then it's like, well, you're not interacting with anybody other than your coworkers, in a way. Okay, I've only had 1 year where I had a roommate, but then again, too, I was out of the house before he was. I was sleeping by the time he came home.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the sense of reality is the fact that when you're missing other people,
well, we're human beings and we're social animals.
Right. We're designed, when God designed us, it was to be for work, physicalness, not to sit down and read out of books and watch television all day long. We were made to socialize and interact with each other. That's basically the whole do stuff. That's the whole family structure of it all. But now that people have electronics and stuff, they're not putting in the effort to want to socialize with other people. They see that the false sense of reality that they get off of television and the media and stuff like that, and they are believing false perfection lives that other people are falsely claiming that they got.
Everything's an avatar now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not necessarily real. You're just showing a version of what you want to show.
They don't see it. Exactly. That's
like reality television, right?
Yeah.
That's the most scripted television there is.
Yeah.
It's but it's interesting going back to like the loneliness. I think this is something we can work on as a species moving forward in this century, as we have all these. It happens so quickly, all this technology, and it will continue to happen quickly.
Yeah.
We have to figure out together how to
break boundaries.
Yeah, and how do we create that sense of community and bonding and real feeling of being a part of something bigger than yourself, both in a digital space, but also where you live, your community, getting together and, sharing interests and doing stuff.
That's kind of coming back out here to the barn, dude. It's like, think about it. When you see a barn and a farm and stuff like that, that's what communities were built on.
Yeah,
if you look at this, you and I sitting in a barn. It's like, how many people do you know that sit talk on a podcast for in a barn?
Yeah, this is like one of the most fulfilling things that I do is just talking to people, especially like physically in a physical space.
Right.
Like I just enjoy this so much. It's because I get like this relief. I get something out of it that I don't normally get.
One of the things so since I moved out from my parents' house, I moved in my house on my own. So one of the things I found out after a while is that I started you start finding things out more about yourself that you never really thought gave a chance thinking about,
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, for me, it's like, okay, I come home, the house is quiet for like a while. It's like, oh man, this is awesome. I get my peace and quiet, But after a while, it's kind of like, honestly, I do miss that interaction coming home. I kind of miss somebody coming home, it's like, oh, how was your day or whatever, whether they complain, whether there was complaining about what happened that day or they're venting to get something off, or like, oh no, I had a great day. Yeah. Whatever it was, it's not at my house because I live alone,
This is something I'm like working on currently is when COVID happened, like, so in Chicago, everything's like shut down.
Yeah.
So for like 2 months or at least a month, everything was just like shut down. So you were like basically just locked in your house for a while. But I was like, there was no one more excited for this than me. Like, cause I was like, I'm working on all this other stuff. I'm like, this is fantastic. I can just bunker down and just work. So the first 2 weeks, I only left my apartment inside to just take out the garbage. Like that was it. And I loved it. And I'm just like exercising. I'm just like, so I like reveled in it and I didn't really have an issue with it.
For like the first couple of weeks.
No, really until like, I would say recently.
Really?
When now everything, it's almost like.
The COVID was like the big game changer of like whether you're going to work or you're staying home. Pretty much was the thing.
But for me, so I was like out quite a bit. But now that it's like over, I don't want to say over, but like the patterns have shifted back. And it's almost like the habits I've built over the last 2 years have been very isolationist. And like I struggle more with that. And I have to actually consciously put effort into being more social now.
Yeah. I was like, that's what started bugging me recently too, is the isolation part. And I really never, I guess it
didn't bother me until really like, I would say
I was the guy that always kind of sat back in the corner. I didn't know if that was. I guess I really can't ask you on that because like a lot of times when we interacted, it was during football, like we had spoken before. But like that was kind of the way I was, and going through school too. I think was that there was a lot of times where I isolated myself and I just kind of sat back, whatever. I mean, there were other times where like. Yeah, I've been with the group, whatever, but there's like basically what Shawn was known for and certain other things, not to go off topic, but it's just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, okay. But like you said, the whole isolation thing now, yeah, that was like something that kind of bugged me for the last couple of years, It's like.
I think overall it's good to be around other people.
Yeah.
That energy from other people. I get my energy from other people.
Yeah.
And if I'm locking myself in like self-imposed isolationism right now, just like working, it's like detrimental to my health in a way. If that makes sense. Like,
okay, let me ask you this. Okay, growing up in rural America, what do you think? What did you think about like your time spent on the farm and stuff like that? Was it just you? Let's say you and your dad, or did you have other friends or other working with other farmers? How was that? Like,
I was always like starry-eyed with the city and the energy and things like that, and like ambitious, and I wanted to do big things. But for me, For me now, I can only live and thrive with both country and city, like rural and not in between. Like, I think humans were meant to either be in nature or with others.
I think of it as both, to have both. Like
both. So if you don't have both, you're going to be like off-centered and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why like I come back to Wisconsin maybe like once every 4 to 6 weeks because I come out here and I'm just like, yeah, just sitting in the barn, smelling the dirt. Oh yeah,
smelling the dirt. Shit, I'll be playing in the dirt. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and growing up, I didn't know anything other than just the country. You know what I mean? So I loved going to school because everybody was around. I loved being around friends and people.
Softball or baseball and stuff like that. You play baseball, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like that was one of my things is that the only thing I did was football. I hated school. I struggled in school. Like for the longest time, I did not like being in school. I did not like being with other people because I was always one of those that I struggled in school so much, you know, and that's why for the longest time I didn't have that much confidence in my life because of things like that. I was always kind of, you know, unless there's something that I had that other people needed or that other people thought was useful. For the longest time, I was just that other guy. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of.
So do you feel like you've overcome that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in the last probably the last 15 years. Yeah. Since I got done with high school. Yeah. Since I was 18, I think it's like when I started getting out and going to work, start working a little bit and stuff like that, and yeah. Then things sound better and stuff like that, you know, and then that's kind of what, you know, one of the things that kind of made me start reaching out to other people and things like that too, or people I went to school with, you know.
I took note of that, like
I
most likely if you don't reach out, they're not gonna reach out.
They ain't gonna reach out. Yeah.
So you have to do it yourself. Take initiative.
Yeah. Well, and like here's the other thing too is I realized is that too is like so. Although that I wasn't always comfortable like going out or reach out to people or whatever, but you always get a handful of those people that you went to school with or whatever that would be like, okay, I can chill with this guy, whatever. He's pretty cool, you know. Like, okay, Rich Hebron, he was always one of those guys that like always gave you the time of day to talk, you know. Like no matter what, you always one of those guys that had a smile no matter what. Always had a good conversation with Richie, you know, and there was a handful of other guys like that, and it's like I took it like honestly, I feel like in a way, if I say this right, I kind of took things like that for granted in a way because I didn't realize the good things that I had, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's like one of the hardest things about kind of being in rural America is that there's no population other than the guys who do the farm. You know, but I loved it though, you know, because it's our nature, it's our thing, you know.
Yeah, there's a big world out there.
Yeah.
And it's good to find a place where you feel grounded and also good to explore as well.
Yeah, and to make a difference too, you know, and you know, it's cool how you can, when the older you get, how things change in a way, you know.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
It's been a little chilly.
Yeah.
I've been trying to think about warm weather.
It looks like you're getting a little cold over there just looking at me.
Yeah.
It's okay because I'm chilling over here. I'm chilled.
I'm good. I'm glad to have you as my first guest in our barn studio.
Yeah, well, it was an honor to be at your first barn studio live here.
All right.
So.
It's been good.
Good talking to you. Thank you.